All right, and hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Signs of Life podcast, the SpeedPro eastbay podcast. I'm your host Zach, and I'm here with a special guest today, Tara. Hello, Tara. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Great. Thank you for joining us here today. And if you just like to tell the audience a little bit about who you are and who you work for, and what you do.
Sure. So I am Tara Pilbrow. I am the Executive Director of West End Arts District, which is a local arts nonprofit that basically tries to raise the profile of the West End as a kind of arts hub around the Bay. So we organize programming of all sorts of arts. So it runs from like music festivals and dance performances through like photography exhibits. It can be a kind of bit of everything, but always somewhere on the west end of Alameda.
Awesome. Yes, and we love that you're here in Alameda. Love supporting locals and working with locals. And obviously, in your line of work and what you do, you have a need for a good signage vendor. So,
Yeah.
could you talk about how how you're able to use SpeedPro for what you do to help promote and educate people and build the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our case, we need it even more than many people might think because so we promote arts on the West End, but for those of you that don't know the West End of Alameda, we have no theatre, we have no concert hall, we have no stage. We're always kind of making the space that we're working in, which is really fun. I love that a lot of our work is taking unusual public spaces or going to parks and transforming spaces through the public art. But that means that kind of more than anyone else, we really need to build the context around the work. So if you're bringing an incredible dance performance into a space, you're always working to kind of create the context that houses that performance, gives it value and shows people what you're doing and all that kind of thing. So whenever we move into like a temporary public space, we need even more signage than you would if you were in a built space for that purpose. So every single time we hit a new space, there's thinking about what the art form's going to be and who the public is that we're trying to bring to it. And then obviously, how are we going to transform that space so that what we're trying to do fits into it and so that the public understands what it is that they get. So yeah, we need the signage kind of even more than most artists do.
Yeah, because we got to have, in terms of, and for us, we call it like interactive installations. We like to come there, and we know, and it's good to know that if local, because we're all that work in the shop are locals, so we're
Yep,
usually familiar with the space, so we kind of have an idea of how we can help you out, what will work, what won't work, things like
completely.
that.
Yeah.
And then, I've only been with Speed Pro a year, and I just never think about like how any little thing, just like a label or someone's name on, like somebody's got to make that. Now
Oh
I work for the people that have to make that. Like now, when I go in like museums or hospitals, I just like look at all the signage on the walls, not really the art. This is like, and I'm like, oh, you know what? We could do that. That's
And
probably made out
yeah,
of.
it makes so much difference. Honestly, I think kind of most people know that context is so important to any art form. But if you think about it, take any kind of white canvas, when they have like crazy contemporary artists that say, this is my canvas and it is white. And it's the very fact of putting that canvas into a museum that gives it the context and gives it its value. And for us, that same thing is kind of all of the signage and all the things that go around the work that we're doing completely transform it. So we just did a big project where we brought a photography exhibition over from the UK, and that was really fun for me because I was also working, with a group in the UK that do like professional, international level exhibitions all around the world. And so we really understand like all of the signage needs, down to like the photographer's name and where all these things are. They have templates for, and all of this incredible signage that just means that when you walk into the exhibition, it feels really intentional. And so they had, X numbers of lists of it, and you will need this, 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 this. And I was like, Larry, Larry, I'm gonna need some help.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The machine. That's our machine kicking on there in the background.
I mean, that's a suitable background noise, surely, for this kind of
Yeah,
podcast.
we are live in the shop here, folks.
Exactly.
Well, so that's great. And any other favorite installations or projects you can think that we've worked on or done for you?
I mean,
we'll answer that as soon as this noise is done.
Yeah, well, I mean, can you hear me okay if I talk over the noise, or do you want
Yeah,
us
yeah. I,
to?
you know what, I can hear you fine. It's just if you
Okay,
can hear
sweet.
me, so you're good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things that's really valuable to us, a lot of the work that we do is based out in Alameda Point. Anyone that doesn't know the area well, Alameda Point is the former Naval Air Station, which like occupies the whole west end of the island. And it's a very particular space. You know, it's full of huge, great military buildings in this kind of slightly tumble down desert space with not that many people in it. It's stunningly beautiful, but it's challenging to work in. And so whenever I have a project that's out there, it's lovely to be able to talk to Carrie and the team at SpeedPro because who knows, you know, Alameda Point, if you're going to be putting signage out there, it has to be huge because anything that's not huge in Alameda Point looks tiny. It all gets dwarfed. And then, you know, you want to do huge, but you're also dealing with really serious winds. I mean, like major winds. So there are all these different factors. You know, we're putting it outside. It's hot. It's windy. And there isn't much by way of signage out there. So you're also trying to make sure that people can see this thing. So it's great to be working with someone who actually knows the space really well and understands all of those issues and has spent many hours walking around with the city going, right, how do we do wayfinding in Alameda Point? And, you know, and Carrie can come with as much expertise as I do in terms of like, what do we need this project? You know, how do we make this successful in this particular location? And that's really helpful.
Yeah, and fighting against the wind, that is such a Bay Area problem everywhere you go.
And you just can't ignore it. Ignore it at your peril.
No, yeah, I know. And now, just working in this industry, if someone reaches out, like, oh, I was thinking like a nice foam core sign on an easel
Uh-huh.
outside. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
no,
Yeah.
no, you need like an A-frame stand with sandbags. And
Exactly. Yeah, totally. All the lessons learned over many years. It's really good to have someone who can share all that with you.
yeah, was that the like the Oceanographer of the Year exhibit thing?
So we've done a couple of projects actually. So, oh my gosh, I mean, I've been working with Carrie for a number of years, but 2 years ago we did our first major photography exhibition, and that was called In Plain Sight, and was actually outdoors. So basically, it was a international collection of photographers that were all doing images that focused on climate in some way or another, and we effectively put up these outdoor displays. So they were kind of like on metal structures and they stayed outside the whole time. And then we also put different galleries of work inside the containers that we have out on the taxiway. And then that work sat outside for a whole month. So it was completely free. Anybody could go and see it whenever they wanted, but it was, you know, it had to sit out there for the whole month. And so it really had to like bear up to the elements. So it really had to be weatherproof and people-proof and all of these things. So that was maybe 2 years ago. And then this year, we brought Ocean Photographer of the Year, and that we actually put inside one of the buildings. So we were able to use Building 41, which meant that it could be a little bit more sophisticated. You know, we got to work with Harry to put kind of, you know, stickers on the walls saying each of the categories and have, like more detail than we could do when we were working outside, which was really fun. And then also transform the building. Like we had these massive, oh my God, I'm not very good, but it was probably 11-foot high windows outside, and Carrie printed for us these huge, big vinyl copies of the images themselves, so that when you walked up to the building, you were just seeing like huge versions of 3 or 4 of the like most striking photographs on the outside of the building, which really helped because the building itself is been like empty for 5 years or something. So people don't really know what's going on in there. So there's a really like striking entrance to the exhibit.
Yeah, and
You know, a couple things.
and it was a cool project to be on the like the production side as well. Even though like Carrie was working and we're here in the shop, and I was seeing everything made, and I had to help like with some of like the names and the
Yep.
thing and apply it, and it was just like that's when I was like, oh man, I've never thought about like how someone would have to produce like these little things for exhibits. You know, you just walk in and you just overlook that stuff until
Yeah.
you're making it. You're sitting there gluing it together, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, completely. And you kind of like, because I don't have a photography background. I'm a dancer, like a dance artist by kind of training. And so when I start doing like photography and stuff, you're like, oh, it's okay. We'll just put some photos on the wall. It'll be great. And then you start speaking to like, you know, the real professionals, and you're like, okay, wait, more than half of the work is, you know, labeling and categorizing and making it look, you know, all the things that you didn't think that you were going to need to do until you're suddenly like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think is that the one we were putting some of the labels like on like a little foamy background so they pop out a little more, kind of.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
all
no,
that.
this
Yeah,
is
all
beautiful.
that stuff. But you walk in an exhibit and you just look at it like, oh, but now on my end, I was like, oh my god, this is what it takes to make these things like pop out and look this
Yeah,
cool.
it was really, really beautiful. And I hope that Carrie was too, really proud of the end result. And it was amazingly successful. So it was worth it in the end. It was a lot of work.
and, and so, what is like important for not for profits and art organizations specifically in selecting a partner in general when looking for like signage and printing vendors?
So we have a couple of things. I mean, as a nonprofit, I think there's a really obvious, really key part of it, which is just talking to someone who understands the financial situation of where we're coming from.
Right.
We're not working on the same budgets as other people. And when you walk into a room and they're like, "So will you get your like design team to send this over?" I'm like, "You don't understand. You're talking to the design team, the management, but it's all me.
Yeah.
It's all this one person standing right here." And so getting someone who understands like that background and realizes that they're not going to be able to work in the same way that they might do if they were talking to a massive corporate team, and they've got a budget that's like as long as your arm to just put up one thing. So that's huge for me, is like that understanding and the supportive spirit that you guys bring to kind of like knowing that you want to invest back into the community in locally. That's huge. Another one that's big for us is we, for the last like maybe 2-3 years, almost I would say 90% of our programming is dedicated in some way to climate focused messages, whether that's ocean, which is what we were really focusing on this year, or kind of a wider climate kind of palette last year, and next year we're doing a massive festival focused on circular economies. So there's a kind of a through line of message, and when you're going into making artwork that talks about these images and these themes, you really have to be sure that you're walking the walk.
Yeah.
As we're making all the signage, it's like, okay, well, so what's going to be the least wasteful and the most sustainable way of creating these messages? That's also something that you guys understand and work towards, and that's really satisfying for us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, totally. I know that's a very important thing, and not for making sure we try to be a green company. It's hard in the signage world. A lot
Totally.
of things, there's signage is either just like hard plastic,
Yeah.
and some in foam. But we definitely, and I know and that's important when you're working with someone like your organization to like, yeah, like you said, you don't want to walk into a exhibit talking about recycling and everything's just like a hard plastic
Uh-huh.
or some styrofoam or
Yeah.
something.
Totally. I mean, we did for the in plain sight one. You guys printed up a whole load of photographs for us on, and I'm not going to remember the names because I'm useless with these things. But it was like a kind of ridged cardboard. I mean, it's not quite the right word, but it was like a paper background. But the photos look great, and for a short-term exhibit, it was really nice to be able to say, but look, this is not plastic. These look great, but they're also relatively low impact.
Right.
So that was yeah. It's nice to know that people are thinking about that kind of stuff.
And kind of and just going off everything you're saying there, so like the big important thing, because obviously you could just like go to probably a website and order things you want, but as far as your organization and not for profit, it's better to work with an actual human, not just like placing an order or doing it like with a chatting with some live agent, you think, and like understanding your needs and your timelines
Completely.
and materials and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I go to carry, I go with an idea, and I really think of it as going to a partner and saying, these are my issues. This is what I want to achieve. How do we do it? Rather than, I mean, obviously, if I knew exactly what I wanted and I knew all the answers, maybe I can plug that into a website and maybe it'll come back the same color and shape as what I want it to. But the work that we do with SpeedPro is really just a question of like, this is the whole vision of the project. These are my ideas as to how we might get there, but I'm coming with this open mind of like, you guys know what you're doing. I want to hear the input and I want to work together to get to like what works best in this situation. And we really like for Ocean Photographer of the Year, I was determined. I really wanted to have this massive big banner on the side of the building, which is like logistically really difficult. And in the end, the city turned around and they were like, "You can't put a banner that big on the side of the building." But I love that we went through like 2 or 3 different kind of ways of imagining how this thing might work, and maybe if you attach it here and if we could just dig it in, there was a whole thought process that went through to, I totally get what you want to do, Tara, and we'll figure out how to do it.
Right.
And that's valuable, you know.
That's kind of like, our this Speed Pro East Bay, definitely our shop's theme, Carrie's theme. It's, is we'll try to make it happen. Like saying
Exactly.
no, we can't do it is like absolutely the last stop. Like if we have to have someone holding it up for 4 hours,
Maybe if we tried a slightly different tack. I'm like, okay,
right.
I'm following you. I'm open.
But no, I mean we love working with customer, obviously not just repeat and local customers, but it's good to work with like open minded and people that are willing to suggestions. Because we have some like this is what they strictly want, you
Exactly.
follow that, and
Yeah.
then they're still not happy at the end of the day. You're like, well,
Yeah,
you did
sure.
everything you wanted,
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is that, I think you've got to start from the point of view that you probably don't know exactly what you want.
Yes.
Because otherwise you may have done exactly what they wanted, but it may not have been exactly the right answer to what they needed.
Yeah, exactly, and that's me with ordering anything, even down at a restaurant. I know what I want until you walk in and you see the food on someone else's plate, and you're like, okay, now
Ooh.
that looks good.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to be open to these things. Yeah, no, completely. It's real. I mean, and I think there's also, there is like the openness and the experience, and then just the fact that, there's years and years of local knowledge. Like, I mean, it sounds stupid, but we all have, every year since, God knows, like 5, 6 years ago, you guys have printed for us the street banners. And the city of Alameda puts like those massive banners across 3 streets in town. And
Oh
people
yeah.
call me and they're like, where do you get your street banner? I'm like, don't even know. Just go to SpeedPro and say city street banner. And they're like, oh yes, I know. If you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to say anything else, we have all the things.
yeah, we got it down. Yeah, when most of them now it's like the local elks. They just call us and just like, and it won't even be the same member, but they were just like, oh, I was told to reach out to you for a banner. I'm like, yep, you're all good.
Yep,
Just
yep, yep. It will work. We will make it. It will work.
and I come from a small town, Alabama, so I love like it's being local and working with locals. That's just how it is, and it's not always. I would say it's easier a lot of times, but it's so much better. Just like know exactly who you are. I can drop it off by your house if I need to.
Yeah, yeah, completely. No, it is. And that's the wonderful thing about Alameda is that you get to be local in the middle of metropolitan.
Exactly.
That's what I love about like the Bay and is Alameda. It's like we get to have a local town right beside town, which is great.
Exactly. But Tara, thank you so much for talking with me. It's been great talking with you today.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, Zach. Always, I'm happy to do anything I can to, help and say thanks to Carrie for all the many things she's done for me.
Totally, thank you, and I would love to talk to you again. Have a great day.
You too. Speak to you soon, Zach.
Bye.
Bye.